पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं पंचचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोणदयाजयत्रगजा गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवलीकृतेन कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णाखलु पाण्डवैरनहरि कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेशरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः एपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पङ्कजं परिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थितगद्गदेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्।
When I took up this chapter, he said 3 weeks he's away. There's nothing much to talk about. It's so straightforward. What are we going to do for 3 weeks? So I brought some resources. I thought, let me read from some resources. Because you read it, it's basically just a recap of all the things. But to me, the most important thing is what is the message from this chapter? Like Raviji said, up to chapter 15, we have already covered all the basic essentials that we need to know. So what does chapter 16 tell us? What's the need for chapter 16 to come in? What do you think? What do we get out of it?
Reinforcement of good gunas and right.
And why do you think so many? Only three verses on good gunas, right? Which is about 26 virtues and all. But there are so many. But the rest of it is all about the Asuric something. Why is it so important? Asuric.
To make us completely aware of, because we, although in the spiritual part, it's not that we are devoid of all those Asuric sympathies. So he is reinforcing that and telling us, these can cause a downfall, so better get rid of them.
So basically, it's a shift in the teaching. So until 15th chapter, it's more of philosophical teaching. So now it's more of a non-philosophical teaching, which means, let's say, a person's goals of life and the way his life, the way the person leads a life is closely related, which we have not seen much in the previous chapter. So from that perspective, this chapter 16 and 17 becomes important.
But we did talk about some of the virtues, in to take chapter 12, for example, 13, 14, all that is also covered.
But now the Bhagavad doesn't specify how this influences the spiritual progress, spiritual goals. But the one I think he emphasizes more on that. So that is my reading.
No, it's everybody's interpretation. Because Gita, you have to make it the way you want it, right?
In simple way, I look at it that it's difficult to cultivate good habits. It's pretty easy to cultivate bad habits. And the influencing power of this overpowering Asuri Sampati such that our mind can get astray in a very easiest way.
Very right.
Right?
Right. I mean, psychologically also they have found out negativity travels very fast. If you sit in a room and there's only one negative flow, before you know the whole room will turn and they start bickering, complaining and fighting and fooling. So negativity is very fast.
One bad apple spoils.
Exactly the whole basket, right? So all those good apples in the basket cannot help because of the one bad apple. So that's why there's more focus on the negative part of it. It's something that we need to be born of. The second part of it
says, Sambatayaal Adichi Adichi, we basically try to reinforce that particular aspect, right? You need to keep hitting yourself with those
Reiterating.
particular, so that you don't get into those particular negative traits.
The other important point in this is we were doing, Raviji sent that Bhagavatam to all of you, the PDF file. Tejo. So we've been reading it since last year. Now it's the third session, night 10 to 10:15. Somebody reads it, take turns. So just a couple of days ago, we are into Skanda 7, Prahlada and all that. So Hiranyakashipu, his brother is killed by Varaha Avatar, right? So he feels lamenting, and a lot of people come and lament, mourn. And then he gives a wonderful philosophical lecture about how Atma is important, the body is nothing, and all that. So Swami Tejamananda says that the Asuras, they also know about all these philosophies, but yet their behavior is different. Because when he takes just the tapas and goes to Brahmaji, the first thing he asks is, I want to be immortal, which he says you cannot be given. Then he asks all sorts of conditions under which he can be killed, which is almost making it impossible for him to be killed. So Swami Tejamananda says that they are always so wedded to the body that everything to do with the body is what dominates. And that's why the Asuric Sampad, if you see, most of it is related to our body consciousness. In the sense, when I say body, it's everything attached to the body. The name, fame, the position, the emotions, all that comes only from the body kosha relating to that. So anybody knows the story of Indra and Virochana? Yes, heard of that? Kashyap. Usual candidates. I remember the story. You talked about it in one of the satsangs. They go to Prajapati and say, what is this Atma?
Yeah,
Then he says, you go and see
Yes.
yourself. You remember?
but that is the father of Hiranyakashipu, right?
He's the son. Prahlada's son. Virochana is Prahlada's son. See, both of them, they hear so much about this Atma and all that, so they want to know what is this real Atma. So
Oh yeah,
they go to
that is
Prajapati
right.
and say,
Mahabali's father.
Muhammad. So what is this Atma we want to know? So Prajapati says that when you look at somebody in the eye, in the pupil, you see something. That really is the Atma. So they come back and say, okay, we now know what is Atma. And he says you have to learn a little more. Why don't you go and look at yourself in the reflection in the water, the pool of water? So both of them go and look, and they're all well dressed now. So they come back to report. They say, what did you see? So they say that we see our body very well dressed. So now we have kind of concluded that this is the Atma. So both of them go back. So Prajapati is very tricky. He wants to know really who's sitting back and thinking about it and coming back to him to ask for more. So Virochana, who's the leader of the Asuras at that time, he's convinced. So he goes back and tells his people, this body is what we call Atma. Everything linked to the body is Atma. So it's kind of immortal, so we have to do everything for the body. But Indra starts thinking, and he says that you say the body, but the body, Atma is supposed to be ageless, is eternal, but the body is not so. And even if a blind person or a disabled person looks at the reflection, that person cannot see. So how? But Atma is supposed to be blemishless. So how can it be? So he goes back and starts asking questions. I don't think what you said is right. There must be more to it.
Yeah.
And then the teaching starts. So what the Swamiji says, there isn't Asuras have been wedded to the body consciousness. And all along, all the Asuric sampads we see, if you go back and think, it's linked only to this body is mind feeling, which is what we are trying to get rid of by saying that we are the weakness and not the body. Ashton saying something?
Yeah,
You
I think
spoke
what
about it
happened
in
is
one
that
of the.
when Indra sees the reflection, there's a pebble which falls, and that thing creates this thing. So this cannot be. That's why he questions. I think that's-
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is even an interesting thing about Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah.
The word Hiranyakashipu itself means to split. Hiranyam is gold,
Gold.
and Kashyapa is caught, golden caught, and his brother that it is Hiranyakshan. Hiranyakshan is gold eyes,
Eyes,
I mean
that's
sight, looking at gold. So there is this thing that we are all Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakshan because we always the cot is a symbol of bodily pleasures basically. So and we want always the golden, the best cot to sleep on, you know. And the Hiranyakshan is basically gold after money, share market stocks, money, gold. So that's one. And the another interesting thing what you are saying this is also that Hiranyakashipu also was a very big bhakt in a way because what he said is he tried to find Vishnu everywhere first before he comes to the conclusion that Vishnu doesn't exist. He actually exhausts all possibilities. He meditates, he goes to Brahmaloka, Indroga, and he captures all of them. And then he comes to the conclusion that Vishnu is not, anywhere because he was seeing outside. He was not seeing within himself. He didn't realize that he himself has got Vishnu in him. So that is a big one. But he was also a very great man because he conquered everybody literally. Everybody was under him, trying to search for Vishnu. And that's when he decides Vishnu is not there, and that's when he decides that I'm this thing, and he changes the whole stuff. So it's very interesting.
So these Puranas have a lot of wealth of meaning, but
Yeah,
you need somebody
yeah.
to interpret it. Otherwise, it
The
becomes
other
just
story which always comes to my mind, this is about Ajamilum Atyam in Bhagavad. Whereas this Brahmin guy is there, he is very, very pious and he does everything properly. So one day he goes, he has a wife, child, and so one day he goes to the forest to cut through the grass for his prayers, and he sees a beautiful lady, and he gets involved with her, and then he completely goes in the wrong direction. So it is like even the Vedas say, Uttishthata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. The next sentence is you are actually walking on a blade, which is like Raviji says, You should be extremely careful on this path. Even though you have got this path and you are going, you should be very careful that you should not fall because if you fall, you are falling on a blade. Literally. That's why I think,
So the reinforcement becomes very necessary. The other thing Swami Tejamananda says is, we always think Asuras, because the way the Puranas are written, people with big fangs and horns and all that, but they are not really so. They are just you and me, everybody around us, because like all of you said, we all have those traits within us. Sometimes they surface, sometimes they are dormant, and at the most awkward moment they can start surfacing. So this chapter is all about just emphasizing it. That's why there's so many verses covering the Asuric Sampada. Daivika, of course, he's covered 26 different virtues, but he's covered it in 3, and the rest of it is just hard hitting. If you see the language, it's quite hard, very, very hard hitting.
Just to open up the discussion.
We have all the time, we have 3 sessions.
If everything is a manifestation out of the Maya Shakti, which it's a total part of Brahman. Why are so many Asuri Sampadis created? The Lord could have also only created some of the Devi Shaktis, right? Why is he making you kind of bring it open and then making you avoid that path and search for the correct path and go? It could have made the whole thing very simple.
It might be based
Basic question.
Phenomena of physics of the truth was that as much positive you have to have a negative note to balance things out. So as much good people are there, you need to have that negative to balance the complete thing.
Yeah, but I'm trying to go one step and see why. All this positive, negative, everything is,
He could have made the world,
Could have made
everything
everything
sattvic. So the main thing is because of the gunas, because the Prakriti is 3 gunas. And everything is created out of Prakriti, which has all the 3 gunas. And the compositions of the gunas are different. We don't know when it started, Anadi, right? We don't know when it all started. So we have to accept where we are today in reality, that we are composed of 3 gunas. So the emphasis is always how to increase the sattvic. That's how it comes about. You could have made it the way, but Again, the other thing is if you follow strict Advaitam, they say it's all relative. There is
Yeah.
nothing like the world. It's
There is
all
nothing
one.
like he has created.
Yeah.
It's all
Nothing like yes.
There is no separate another
correct.
other than we ourselves,
It's all
but not in this
Virtual
world.
reality.
But even if you call virtual reality, is still having, golden shades and dark shades.
Yeah, but I mean that comes to the concept of that ajnana, no? I mean the universe exists because we don't know our true self, and that is where when I am different than this body, that principle is there.
So once
The
you become
deeper the-
Brahman, right?
Yeah.
When you say you're Brahman, you're convinced, then the world doesn't exist. Then
World
all
doesn't-
these shades will not exist. Right?
That is that is
Long
where
way to go.
where this I think Ramana Maharshi once was sitting in a pravachanam, and then he dozed off. I don't know, is this- So one of the shishyas, or he was a bit always negative kind of chat. So say, hey, I saw you, you dozed off. So Ramana Maharshi answered, "Nah, paate nahi." So
You have to translate that.
yeah, so he just answers, yes, I saw that. So he doesn't see himself
As the body.
as the body, yes, and he's continuously seeing that. I mean, he's always in that. If we are always in that state, then this negative positive simply will not exist.
Long way to go, right? So, so one of the things I thought we'll do is we'll go through the verses, but we'll also pick up some characters that we can from our Puranas, and we can dwell on it just to maybe 5-7 minutes on each of them to see how they represent the epitome of all these things. And maybe if you all can help me, each one can maybe pick up one of the characters. I have written a few names, there may be others that you know. And this week I thought we will complete up to, if possible, up to 20, because they are pretty straightforward. Then next week we can take up some characters, study their what our Puranas have written, and see how they really exemplify everything that we've spoken about. And then what are the lessons to be learned, and then we'll conclude the chapter. Third week we'll see what we need to do. Okay, so she will continue. Adhika ji, you can help me to chant. So we'll start from 11, right? Yeah.
Chintamaparimeyaam cha
Chintamaparimeyaam cha
Pralyantamupashritaah
Pralyantamupashritaah Kamopabhogaparama
Etavaditi nischitaah
Etavaditi nischitaah
Chintamaparimeyaam cha
Chintamaparimeyaam cha
Pralayantamupashritaah
Pralayantamupashritaah Kamopabhogaparama
Etavaditi nischitaah
Etavaditi nischitaah. Given to the deep and lifelong anxiety and holding enjoyment of sense objects as the highest goal, they are convinced that life is this much alone.
So the most important thing is they are convinced. They don't know of anything else. And they are convinced that this is the only thing in life. So next week when somebody wants to take up, you can take up something called the Charavaka philosophy. Anybody has heard of that? No? So it's a philosophy which believed, yeah, and they believe only in body, enjoyment, this life. So if you can just see, I checked up the Google, there are some good points there. You can see how, and this is also a accepted philosophy which was prevalent in India at that time. It's not that it was not that people were believing in it. It's very, very reflective of what this. So I bought one book which has got the split Sandhis. This is Swami Dayanand Saraswati's disciple, a person, American person called A.K. Aruna. He's written this. So those who are interested, I have a PDF copy again. You were at 11, right? I thought we'll use this to see the meaning because most of you already have this big book.
What did you say? Split what?
The Sandhis.
Split something.
Because see, when you join it, like if you say Kamo Po Bhoga Paramaha. So actually there is a split in the whole thing.
Kama upabhoga. Kama upabhoga parama.
Upabhoga.
So the way he's written is Chintam Aparimeyam Cha Pralayantam Upashritar. So till Pralayam. So the first question is, what is the Chintam, which is worries? What is the worries we are talking about? Why should this fellow be worried? Because apparently he's got everything, he's rich, he's wealthy as it comes later. What are the things you think typically will cause worry or anxiety to such a person who's in this particular mode?
Old age also.
Old age.
Some fear of losing the age.
Fear of losing everything that he's gained. This is a very big thing. What else? Because the point is, we also are guilty of all these anxieties.
Yeah.
So we should also think it's not that it's actually we. So to reinforce again and again that when we are beset with anxieties, we start thinking about these things. Veda says you should not be anxious because you should forever be at peace because Aham Brahmasmi. So these anxieties could be anything. So despite the power that these people have, despite the wealth that they have, they will still have anxieties. It's not that they are totally out of it. Whereas on the other hand, the total jnani may have nothing, but he'll have no anxieties. He'll have nothing to worry about. And the other significant part here is pralayam. They say this holding enjoyment as the highest goal, they are convinced that life is this much alone. Why is the word pralayam coming here? We all saw what is pralayam, right? In the previous chapters, it's still the end of the cycle and then kalpa and the whole thing starts. Why is pralayam written here? What is significant about it? Yes.
The death of God. Until the time he dies. Not necessarily.
So why not just die? Why we are using the pralayam, which is the ultimate death?
Punarabhi maranam puranabhi janam.
Then there will be nobody to compare.
So
Till this again.
till it comes to an end, right? So because as long as he's alive and he's in this form, he is certain to have a rebirth. So the cycle will keep on going till it comes to pralayam, where again in some dormant form it will be there and then come back when the cycle starts again. So the word pralayam used is very significant. Means till the time pralayam comes, this person will always be beset with anxieties and worries and all those. It's not going to leave him. So it means as long as we are in this mode, we will forever be in this mode, doomed to come again and again. And this is what the Lord says a little later on. So I thought this word was very. What about convinced, nishchita? What do you think they are convinced about? No doubts at all. So it is so strongly rooted. See, we are saying in our path to climb up the spiritual path, the nishtha is lacking. That's why we start with something, but we are not convinced. So again, we go back. So it's always like a yo-yo. But these people seem to be convinced that this is it, this is the only path. So they are very firm in their conviction, and that's why they are behaving this way. So these are some of the significant things about such people. That one, they are so convinced, and that's why they go ahead despite whatever they see. And that's why they, if you see the further verses, they try to just eliminate everything by way of competition or anything that comes in their way. And the other thing is that the Lord says that it will never come to an end. They'll always have this anxiety, they'll always be fretting and fuming. They'll only come to an end when finally their whole cycle comes to an end. So till that time they are doomed. And the other one is that he says, Swamiji says, they are given to deep and lifelong anxiety, holding enjoyment and sense objects as the highest goal. Where do you recollect seeing some of the our goals, the Sattvika goals in the Gita? You remember anyway, throughout it keeps coming in. One verse that always stands out is 5:17. You will see 5:17. Always comes up. It's a very tricky one because it's the first line is one line. Yeah, Tatviti Tatparai. So this verse I thought was a very good contrast to the other one. You want to read that one? 5:17.
Yeah, तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानं मानः तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः.
So here, this is the opposite of somebody whose mind is always on the Lord, and their goal is that, and they're tan-nishta, so they're totally convinced. So the other side of the spectrum. So here, this person's goal is he feels body, enjoyments, everything to the body is my goal. Whereas the sattvic person used to think this is the goal. The jnani, because this all verses dealing with the jnani. So I'll go to the next verse.
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः
कामक्रोधपरायणाः
कामक्रोधपरायणाः
ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम्
ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम्
अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्
अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः
कामक्रोधपरायणाः
कामक्रोधपरायणाः
ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम्
ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम्
अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्
अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्. Bound by the strings of hundreds of expectations and given to desire and anger, they seek hoards of wealth by unrighteous means for the enjoyment of sense objects.
So again, very powerful. So see this one, first is Baddaha, bound, Asha Pasha Shate. So Shata is hundreds, right? And Pasha is the same as Pasam probably in Tamil, the attachment. So attachment, the strings of attachment, bound. So, isn't it? Expectations. Asha is expectation. So desires. So they are constantly having desire, one desire of the other. So they are bound by such things. So last week Raviji was talking about Swami Chinmayananda's definition of happiness. Remember the numerator and denominator. So he say, you recollect, anybody recollects? What did he say?
Number of
Mathematical equation.
number of desires met by
Met
the number
divided
of
by
desires generated.
total.
And that keeps increasing.
So the first ratio of the denominator is constant and you are able to successfully achieve some of the numerator things, then the proportion goes up. So your quotient of happiness goes up. But unfortunately, the denominator always keeps on increasing geometrically, exponentially. Because one thing satisfied, the other one comes in. That's what basically this talks about. That it will never be set aside with one desire. The desires will keep on multiplying. So that's why Satya Sai Baba's program on ceiling on desires makes more sense. See, we always say get rid of desires. It's not that easy, right? It's not just easy to say we'll get rid of it. So we can start with small steps. So his program, it talks about ceiling on desires. So instead of saying I will get rid of everything, you start putting a cap. And slowly, once you start achieving that, then the cap, the minimum amount keeps coming down. Then you'll find you are more successful because you have started getting used to that new way of living. Like our tummies, when we start dieting, typically we start cutting down on the food. Initially, the pangs will be there. But as the time goes by, the stomach itself shrinks to accommodate the new way of living. Same thing with desire. So instead of getting rid of everything and saying I will do that, which is very Herculean, it may not happen in practical life. What happens if you put a ceiling on it and slowly start reducing it? Then you will find that you are able to navigate it better and start reducing it further. So such people, they are driven and bound by these strings of desires. And the other thing is given to desire and anger. So three verses I can remember. Chapter 2, 62 and 63. Let's read that. Recap. Because that's a very powerful telling way of the ladder of how it goes down one by one. You want to read? Okay, Radhika ji is the champion there.
Radhika ji will see.
Huh?
Radhika ji will see.
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति.
This is the most powerful way of expressing the whole downfall. You recollect how this whole thing starts, because this is exactly the cycle we are seeing here, but it's manifested in different behaviors. That's what it is.
This is when you go to shopping and you see something. First time you see. Okay. Then second time you see the same thing. How would it look good on you? The third thing, it's not so expensive. Once in a while,
We can indulge.
maybe it is okay. And at one point, I can't live without this. Then you go and buy. Once you buy, as long as it's okay, fine. I think the best example is buying a new car in Chennai. First time one auto guy comes and gives it, then your life is gone. Then the problem is how safe is the possession. Even a slight problem to that possession affects your happiness.
I had one of my teenage cousins many years ago, 83. Huh?
Yeah, I'm saying so that's the best
Everywhere.
example.
Even in Singapore, it can happen. You park somewhere and somebody will
Chances are
just.
higher there. Anyone will come and hit you also.
Then it goes on.
It goes on. One of my cousins, way back, he come to Singapore when he was a teenager, and he was very sports-minded. So he was very itching to buy the sports shoes and all that. So they're talking of 1983. So he came and bought the shoes, but he didn't want to use it because if I use it, it gets spoiled. Then kept it till the time came before going back to India. So the previous day he said, let me use it today. And unfortunately it started raining. So I got very upset. Immediately he took some plastic wrappers and covered it and all that. Because now he's changed. That's what happens when you desire or something like this. Then you may end up not taking the car out at all. Just leave it. Because the risk is always there. Or the other way around. You just don't care. Once it's gone, it's already scratched. It doesn't matter. But one thing leads to other. Who wants to explain this verse to us so we can do some recap on this? It's a very powerful one. We should always stand out. 62. You want to try? You were not there when all this was
Yeah,
going on.
that's fine. I think it's the.
How does the whole process, the
The
change start?
whole process is you start liking something. You say for buying a house, I think you decide it will be bigger. So you want to get specific college admission for your children. You start developing certain things, and immediately over the period, the liking becomes the wish. That's one of the goal I want to achieve. So once you get into that one, then you try to somehow get into the I want to get somehow. The somehow leads into dharma to adharma. So a bit of deviating from your path. And still, if you don't get it, then adharma goes to the worst, and you try ready to do any
means.
bad things, any means you want to achieve. By the time you lose all your senses, everything is gone, then you are not human anymore. So that's the nutshell of that's what my understanding.
No,
It's a travel
this is
style,
what this
travel
verse
style.
says. The other point is
So where is the root
One-
cause? Root cause is
the desire that I want this.
the root cause. Is then you should not have a liking at all on anything. I mean that's
No,
I think for
last
me,
week Ravinji was saying
the
desires can be
fundamental root
good or
cause
bad.
is the mind changes. Yeah.
Mm.
So liking something is buying a house, getting a college for the children. This I think that desire is the normal action oriented. Yeah. When things are not moving, the mind is moving from good to other. There was somewhat or
The tilt.
asura sambat,
Yeah.
and that deviations is the one I personally feel that is the key element, key root cause. If I understand that I'm shifting from here to there, then I can control my desire. It's not.
But attachment leads to desire.
Right.
Yeah, but I think this is where I think you are saying that the attachment of desire need to be sealed. You can't completely drop it. We are still in samsara. So whenever we are going on the 16th chapter, I said that understanding on Ashura
Asuri.
Sambar, yeah, Asuri Sambar. Why do I need to walk on the wall? See, if I only walk on the wall, then whether I'm going this side or that side. So why don't you go too deep in this side so that even I sleep, I won't get into
Still be on this side only.
in that area. But that's because of my samsara. Because my samsara is always, I have to have balance in both sides. Therefore, I'm walking in the edge of on the wall. So my goal is that okay, I understand this. I want to get into this. But if I want to get into this, I need to get out of samsara side. Samsara side means I need to. This lot of things goes and go. Yeah, I'm practically I'm undergoing this 62 and 3, right? 62 and 3. Do have my daughter studying 12. There is certain things. I'm always taking on. It's okay. This is what I'm thinking. Where I'm going. Am I going to get the college by giving the money? No, I should not do that. So when somebody asks me the question that if she doesn't get the college, specifically we're looking for some certain thing. If you don't get what I will do. So I said, okay, fine. If she is not qualified, then I want to really put her into BSc. If she doesn't that, okay, I should let her go to the BA. I don't really care on it. Let's go on the process. I'm giving in because there is a big fight going on in my mind with me and my wife. So my thinking and my thinking is different. So balancing this is really.
It's true. In such cases, so two things here. Raviji last week we said, is all desire, is it bad? Some desires are good, some desires are bad. So what is sattvic is good. Like all of us have duties to do. So if you have a duty to do, so then one cannot say that desire to do it right is correct. But in all these cases, we should apply 2.47, Karmanya Eva Adhikaraste, which means we need to do whatever is necessary to the best of our ability, but we should not get attached to the outcome. Rather, we should take the outcome as a prasada, which means whatever has happened is the best. So, like you said, if this doesn't happen, then plan B, then maybe plan C. All those are okay as long as it doesn't lead you towards the other way. Yeah, the other
Bhagavad
point
said that we have an MBA, the big theory says BATNA, best alternate to negotiate agreement. So anything you do, anything you do, you always keep in second option, third option, fourth option. It's not just on selecting the college, even with a different level. Otherwise, the mind will get distracted.
exactly. So it's something to fall back upon. Safety net, I would say. But here, more important here, it says, when you suppose you have a desire and it is fulfilled, that it can lead to greed because you feel like having more and more and more. There's no end. And once that starts, that's where ultimately it cannot go on that way. Somewhere it has to end. And that's when the frustration comes in. And that's when you get frustrated, the anger comes in. When the anger comes in, the brain gets locked into that particular anger mode. And slowly you start forgetting the discrimination is gone, your intellect is gone. You don't know what you're thinking about. You see a lot of crimes that are done in a fit of anger. Afterwards, they come back and say, why would I have done that? South African athlete, remember the para guy? What was his name?
Pistorius.
He killed his, now he comes back and says, no, I never meant to do that. It was all a haste kind of thing. So in that anger, this is what the Lord is saying. The anger is the most distant thing. So Kama, Krodha are the main things. And the anger in our scriptures, we believe it is caused because of the desire to get something. And when it is blocked, then the anger comes in. In reality, this is what has happened. Why do we get angry when somebody, they don't behave the way you want them to do? It's because of expectations. So the expectations are nothing but another name for desire. We expect that somebody, our desire is that so-and-so object or so-and-so person, so-and-so situation will turn out exactly the way it should be. If it does not, then we get angry because it didn't meet our requirement. So going back to saying that prasada buddhi becomes more and more important in convincing ourselves. So one way I do it is saying that everything that has happened for the good. So if you take that, then you may find something positive in it, even though to outsiders, it may seem to be the most negative of all whatever has happened. It's a disaster for you. You may find something hidden in it. And basically, this is what the verse is talking about. And to exactly your point, he's saying, you see, that the focus here is insisting they seek holds of wealth by unrighteous means. Because once their desires are thwarted in some form or the other, and then the greed to get more and more, whatever is more, could be wealth, could be name, fame, anything. When they feel that this is not the way to get it, I need to change over and start doing things by hook and crook, we say, right? But do anything that is necessary, but I'll make sure that I get it. And that's where 2.62 and 63. Now the antidote to that is 3.42. Can you see that? Again, want to give. First of all, 337, Arjuna is asking the exact question in chapter 3. Once you know all these things, what is forcing people to, what is compelling them to act that way? 3.37.
3.37. Kama Isha Krodha Isha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Isha Krodha Isha Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyayena Miha Vairinam Vidhyena Miha Vairinam.
Vidhi enam iha varu.
It is another point. It is Rajas which gives rise to desire and anger. Rajas needs to be guided by the quality of Sattva. Earlier we had Rajagurus who advised the kings. Even now we have the system of mentors to the top executives, provided the mentor's guidance is based on spiritual rules. If the mentor or Rajguru is in Rajas himself, then the mentoring field is very objective. Now each time we have a desire, we know where it comes from.
Yeah. Look, I want to make use of this puppets in next week probably. Because towards the end, there are a lot of puppets from Guruji. So basically, again, Arjuna is asking the same question. What is compelling people to behave this way? And the Lord says it is the Kama Esha Krodha. The Kama which leads to Krodha, and that's what is compelling people.
Two sides of same coin.
So you remember Star Wars, the dark side. Remember the first initial three, the Darth Vader, he kind of resists, then he goes on, and then he's inviting Luke to join him in the third episode. Come to the dark side, come to the dark side. So he's resisting. Finally, he just lets go and says, I will not come. Anyway, so 342 talks about how to conquer this. This is the antidote. 342.
Actually, it has the three gradations of desire.
You want to talk about that? Smoke.
One was
Yeah.
fire
First
and
is-
smoke, the other was dust on a mirror.
Yes. That is the
There is a
embryo.
womb.
And the third is
Third is a boom.
So we're doing some recap now because these are powerful verses which can help us to drive home this. So you all remember the three, what P.K.G. said? Yes. Whoever nodded, yes. What did they say? The first one was smoke and fire.
So that is the easiest.
Easiest.
Yes.
No, dust on the mirror. Oh, smoke.
Second.
Dust on the mirror. First
Dust
is
on
dust
the
on the
mirror.
mirror.
First
First
is
is dust on the
dust.
mirror.
No, first is
First
smoke.
is smoke.
Smoke, fire.
Yeah, smoke.
Smoke.
Because smoke is
And then
you can
Smoke is
easily.
temporary, it will get clear. So your desire
Dust
is
needs
like
somebody else to
So
clean.
it's linking desire
Yeah.
to these things.
First is mirror, smoke on fire.
Fire.
Then is dust
Dust
on
on
mirror.
mirror.
The third is embryo.
Embryo.
So desire hardens to that extent. So sometimes when it is at a very nip in the bud kind of stage, primitive stage, it's like smoke on the fire. So you blow away the smoke, the fire can land. So that's gone. The second one, it starts becoming stronger. It's like the dust on the mirror. It's not so easy to get rid of. You have to wipe it, use a cloth, and put some efforts. Once it gets very hardened, it's like the embryo in the womb of the pregnant lady, which means just like the life cycle takes so long, it's very, very difficult to get rid of it. So the lesson is that as long as it is at a very light stage like the smoke on the fire, get rid of it before it becomes hardened, because once it takes root, then it's very difficult to get rid of it. That's what they say about thoughts. So thoughts are samskaras. We cannot avoid thoughts coming and impinging on us. They will keep on coming. But if you allow it to take root, that's what becomes vasanas. That's what causes the grooves. Then once it goes into the subconscious, very, very difficult to get rid of it. Because you don't know. It just comes unbidden. You don't know when it can surface. Because it is your lost conscious control of it. So you should never allow anything to go inside. Reflect on it. If your thought comes, find a way to get rid of it. Thought will come because you can't help it. Your senses are roving all around. Environment is something that you cannot avoid. The way to not allow this to happen is to get rid of it at source.
Actually, there was I attended one of the mind control seminars, and they were saying one lady was explaining that you should not have thoughts at all, but that's not a possible state. Primarily because we have Rajoguna and also our previous samskaras, which it is going to give rise to thought.
Correct.
So I think I read in that book which AKG had given, Rama Maharshi's. He says that the first thought will come. You cannot stop that. Yeah, you stop. The second, what happens? The problem is not with that. The problem is with Vandachana, you just accept it and leave it. But that doesn't happen. You start going after it, and that's where the problem comes. So when that thought comes and you go after it, and you become after it, that becomes desire, and then that leads to
The whole cycle starts.
The desire cycle starts. So the way to kill that is by asking, that question of who am I?
Who got the thought?
Who got the thought? The moment you start doing that to each and every thought that comes out, who has got this thought, or being alert, that thought goes back to them, which is what he is called in that as mano nashaha. It is not. It's actually killing of the mind. But now, when you say killing, it is not literal killing. It is basically
Killing
getting
the
to the
thought.
root of the thought, and the thought automatically goes back to its substratum from where it comes, and that's the most effective way of killing. So he has asked a lot of these questions, right? Whether another way of controlling the mind is by breath, because the thought and the breath always goes together. The only time when the thought and the breath are not together is in sleep. When the mind, in deep sleep, when only the breath is there, but the thought is not there. So whenever you are extremely disturbed, you can immediately go to meditation, and one of the easiest ways of meditation is by counting or focusing on your breath. So that helps, but that still will not eliminate the thought. The only way that you can eliminate the thought is by that Atma Vicharam, which is basically identifying who is getting that particular thought and then killing them. That is the principle which is taught. It's very powerful, and it's in line with this.
Just to add to that, that's what Krishna says in this chapter 3 and Sloka 5. It says that there is not in a single situation where will not be put an action. Nahi kachchit kshanamiti jato tishtati akarma karte. Karyate hi avasyak karna sarve prakriti jai gunai. So it's inborn on the basis of the qualities. And that's what adds to your statement, which says that what is the root? The root of your Ashwattham tree. Ashwattham meyanam suvirudamudam asanga sastrena dridena chitva. So you need to use that particular attachment, acts of the attachment to essentially part of those particular roots. So thoughts will be there. It's always pervading. So the question is that how we entertain the thoughts.
But if the thoughts can give rise to desires, I think then that's when the thoughts become stronger, right?
If you go after that, then it becomes desire. But that choice
And
is
then
with
it
you.
will result in an action.
That will result in an action, or it may just go further. But it's your choice. So, for instance, if it's like a sattvic thought, and that's where the alertness always comes, and that's where these parameters. Ultimately, these are all control parameters.
I'm thinking of just
Six Sigma language.
Just one example. Yesterday, when we met with Kavita, we had some chanting in some place. So while going down, she told me she'll be making Puran Poli at home and everything is ready. One statement she made, it gave a thought, raised a desire in me to eat Puran Poli. Immediately I went home. There was so much of work, helper not there. Still that thought was continuously there about Puran Poli. I also soaked chana dal. Finally we had Puran Poli in the night. So the desire, thought resulting in a desire, resulting in an action.
Root cause.
So, resulting in an action. No, I also did Naivedya evening Naivedya.
No, that's all very
But nothing
fine.
wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm saying in
Nothing
the
wrong with
Madri, every
All
thought
that,
comes
yeah,
up, right? This was just a simple
Simple
thing.
one.
But you lingered over
But if you
it.
go,
I
yeah,
lingered over
That's right,
it. It was always at the back of the mind that I have to soak that chana dal, I
Yeah.
have to make puran poli. Because I wanted to also have it. And the desire.
But
That's the
it was
desire.
a- it was a good process.
Yeah, you said it, right? He says it's good.
And you're making it for others, which is very selfish. That is very nice. The only problem is if suppose for some reason you could not make the Puran
Don't
Poli,
happen.
that's where the thing comes.
That is
Come the issue
not
will
doing
become
like
problem.
Then Vishwa might have not got Puran Poli, he would have got something else.
Even disasters, if she promises him,
Yeah.
then he starts thinking.
That's why I
And
said
you
the
double
thought
force.
was within me only. I didn't tell it out to anybody.
Actually, the process, how it works, if it is not Satve, that is where it leads to other.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
that
if you
makes
see
sense.
all the major scams,
Hmm.
you know, the CEO, chairman, who has enough
It
money,
makes no sense, right? It doesn't matter.
because it is not related to money. That is why it's poor, it is not related to money. It's about how this whole process works.
So why do you say it doesn't add up?
Because, no, I'm just saying that these people
Yeah.
are at such a high
Correct.
position, why they will take such action, for example, for, I feel for like ICICI chairman Chandra Kochar, she was like such a,
Yeah.
such a entity, and she was like one of the most powerful women and things like that. And from that, like, what action she took actually led to such a downfall for her. Doesn't make sense. Why she would, in her sense, take such an action, right?
Now, if you look at this sloka, now
Yes, sir.
Now
Yeah,
it makes
the
sense.
sloka says
The
that.
shloka
it has got nothing to do with what you have.
Yeah.
The brain is disengaged.
Ah.
All the discretion goes off somewhere. And they do something later on. Rajat Gupta from McKinsey,
Yeah.
such a position, so much of money. Why did he go and do that? So anyway. So again, real life examples to show these things are real. It is not something which is in some dry as dust kind of scripture, but this is the reality. This.
I identify with sir, my son is also in 12th, he is now in 12th. So all the time this thing goes in the mind, okay, where will he go for college and where will he, but then, just go back to this thing that, we are doing the best and where he will go is his destiny, right? So that brings the stress down. So I have already crossed that part, my son is going to go now, so.
That stressor has vanished. Something else will
In
come.
my case, it's not about myself. I think my daughter also should understand. I think from India, we always do it. The Ishwar Prasad Bhakti. So whatever you do, your best. So let's see the output. I think the kids need to be fine-tuned on it.
So you're spending time helping her to understand.
Yeah, I understand that. I think so. So before the duty, we fight like anything. You have to study. When the mark comes, we never discuss about that. Whatever comes, okay, fine. 60 out of 70 is fine. 40 out of 70 is fine. 35 out of 9, that's fine. Okay, let's
As long
try
as
for
you've
next.
done your best.
So they don't afraid to tell the marks to me. Then my daughter, so she don't care about it. We discuss about the issues, and we don't critics or anything about the outcome. We spend a lot of time on the.
It's practically
I
leaving
think
the
it's
Gita.
the whole thing. My takeaway, the whole thing, anger management, so get of anger or distraction from anyone that you say. It's all come to the three gunas. The fundamentals of three gunas is the food what we eat. So the chapter 17 or even the chapter 14 is all circle around. So what you what you take.
Starting
There's
point.
nothing wrong in what you said. Puran Poli. So the question is that when you cook the Puran Poli, if that it turn out very good, what will happen?
I can't.
Number one. Number two.
Yeah.
And you say that you attach that one to the prasadam. So whether
She
it's
said
good or
prasadam,
bad,
Naivedya.
if good or bad, you would have done the prasadam. So whatever the outcome is, you would have taken that one because it's a prasadam. So it's a question is that if the outcome is not there, then what kind of action will you do? Will you go to the market and do?
Ultimately, I'll tell
or
you
you-
what, I didn't get to eat it also. Finally, these people, because I went to so many houses and ate everywhere else. Today morning only I tasted it. At the end of the day, I didn't even taste it. But that desire was there so strong.
Now just imagine so much discussion about Puran Poli, so much desire.
But I I have one small question. Yeah, I mean it's a slight. See, when we read this, I mean the desires. Everybody has got desires, and then all these things come up, right? And we go after that to fulfill it. There is this Yajnavalkar and Maitri's this thing, where Yajnavalkar, he's got two wives, right? Maitri and somebody else.
Gargiya.
Yeah?
Gargiya.
Gargiya. So basically, he says that he comes back and he says that, I want to give away my property to both of you, and I want to leave and go. So in that Gargi basically is very happy. I mean, she says, okay, all right. She's a very beautiful wife. But Maitri questions him. He says, I don't want the property. Let the property go to Gargi. So then he asks, what do you want? So then he says, I want the thing that you are going after. Leaving all this, first of all, you are a jnani, and leaving all this, if you are going after something, I want that. And that's when there is samvad between Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where they both discuss this thing. But in that, Yajnavalkar says one thing to Maitri that, we are all trying to satisfy ourself, and ourself is the dearest for all this thing. And I am going to satisfy myself, So even at that level, they are, after the desire.
Self, they say, is Atma.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in Upanishad, it is Atma.
Yeah.
So because we are all Brahman.
So, but then there also there is desire.
Yeah, that's why you see, Swami Paramahansa has given a talk. Is desire evil? So there he has distinguished between types of desires. It's not that every desire is evil. There are some noble things, sattvic desires. All Swami Chinmayananda, Shankaracharya, they all had desires to propagate this, establish things, to take this sattva. Like Guruji, what he does is a very huge task ahead. Now the distribution, the vision is that 10,000 Gitas every day will be distributed at Tirupati. So by forming like a booth, and the cost is say 1 lakh or something. So if throughout the year every satsangi 2,000 and odd in the Jivan class can give 1 lakh, then this can happen. There's to keep on doing. Like this time they went to Pandharpur and Vrindavan, and Vrindavan 3 lakhs and odd, 3 lakhs 63 or 3 lakhs 20,000 Gitas were distributed. Pandharpur some 100 and 1 lakh. So the idea is it's on a big scale. We call it what Bhag, remember? Big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yeah.
Jim Collins.
Yeah.
In the corporate world, big goals, dream big. So like that. So anyway, so this is, we started with desire and ended up somewhere else. But stand we have.
One more dimension which I try to think about it is that why do you have a desire? I feel that the human being, I am not able to deal with the situation of ambiguity, that I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, right? So if I cannot live with that ambiguity, I want to create the future in my mind, that I desire that it happens this way. And when it doesn't happen, then it's a problem. So something is destined for you, but because you start thinking that this should be happening this way, which is actually going to be good for me, or that is what my mind thinks at that stage, it's not able to accept a thing like thinking today, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? For any something, right? I just want to know what's going to happen tomorrow so that I'm prepared. And I think that leads to these desires. So it's very difficult to disconnect from this if you do. That's what I think.
That's why they say living in the now. No? We talked about mindfulness. Living in the now is accepting matters as they stand now, rather than thinking about the future and say it's what it should look like. There's a term they call it going with the flow. Just taking things as they come.
That's very difficult to actually do. Then, actually difficult to practice.
Yeah. So he said, no, razor's edge, right? Suradhara. So nothing is easy on this path, and that's why we have seen our scripture says there's only a very tiny, infinitesimal people who go on this path. There's a lot of rigors. There are many who start and then drop off because they are not able to take it. So constantly telling ourselves. So I had a very ambitious desire. We'll do a lot of verses. We ended up in this incident. So next week we'll continue. But before that, who wants to volunteer maybe 3 or 4, we will just take up characters and talk about it. One is the Ravana. Who wants to? You want to take up? Oh, you are not there next week. You are traveling. That is ideal. The Ramayana. Ravana, who wants to take up? It's all in the Uttarakanda. As a depiction of Ravana as a person from whom we can learn how not to be. Who wants to volunteer? You are not there, right? You are traveling or?
No, I'll be there.
You'll be there. Okay, I have 3. Whoever wants to volunteer, Ravana is one. The other one, coming back to the corporate world, in the 2008 financial crisis, they blamed the MBAs a lot for it. And so there was a whole spin-off, and it led to something called the MBA oath. Because the MBAs were blamed. There was a movie called Wall Street, if you recollect. So I want somebody to look at the Wall Street character, Gordon Gekko, and the MBA oath. Do you want to do that?
I don't know. I mean,
You Google no, nothing. You don't have to read anywhere.
I
It
can
will take
try.
only 10 minutes. Short topics. Ravana, who wants to do? You want to try? No.
Then we can discuss mutually.
Anyway, somebody come prepared. So at least
What is search? You say greed is good.
greed is good.
That is what his tagline is.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for.
Let's take at least these 2, and then Hiranyakashipu you already spoken about, so I don't think there's much to talk about. So we'll take these 2 characters, and it's one from the corporate world, one from Puranas or Itihasa, and then see how. Meanwhile, we'll continue going through these verses. It is just a way to illustrate how not to be. So once it comes very vividly and graphically alive, probably it will help us to catch us in time before we also enter that same path. Because Ravana was also very ambitious, very greedy, even though he was very learned. So again, a case of you ask, no, it doesn't add up. A case of where he had everything and he was very well versed, he had all the Vedas, but yet why did he want all that?
Shiva Bhakta.
Shiva Bhakta, all sorts of things. So somebody on Ravana and somebody on the Gordon Gekko, you know. Okay. MBA both. We'll end there, we'll continue next week. We'll try and complete in 3 weeks. I thought we'll complete 2 weeks and then keep the last week for discussion. We'll continue this discussion.
Puran Police.
After all the build-up,
Let's develop the design. What is
okay. Shall we chant? Okay, Balaji had a good one. Instead of Purnamada, instead of Purnamoli, let's tell Purnamada.
அது சாதா பருப்பு கோழி தேங்காய் இதுதானா விட்டுரு.
But you said the making is a bit different.
Shall we close, say the closing prayers? Then we can go.
Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Swasti Prajabhyo Paripalayuntam Nyayena Margena Mahim Yasha O Brahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Thank you. Very good interactions.
So Puran Poli Gurnami.
After taking that, then you say Purnamada. We have Purnamada. Your voice lost. Too much singing.
Yes, yes.
Eh?